Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Taberky?
Present.
Mr. Brickweg?
Here.
Ms. Hausfeld? Here. Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Here.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Here.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Here.
And Mr. Schildmeyer is absent.
Let it be known that there are 6 members present, 1 member absent. Do I have a motion to approve the written minutes of the September 28th council meeting?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to approve the written minutes of September 28th council meeting.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Motion to approve of the written minutes of the September 28th council meeting by Don Taberky and second by Patty Hausfeld. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Order passed. There will also be a special council meeting tonight at 7:30. That will be a vote on the ordinance number 31, which will be the ordinance amending the St. Bernard Codified Ordinance, Chapter 923, Waste Collection and Recycling. We'll start with reports of administrative officials. Mayor Jonathan Stuchel.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, the Village of St. Bernard received notification under the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act of 1988, or otherwise known as WARN, that St. Bernard Soap Company will terminate the employment of at least 127 employees at its facility located at 5177 Spring Grove Avenue in St. Bernard. As detailed by the Director of Human Resources, the number of terminations by job title are listed as follows. Production and maintenance technicians, levels 1 through 6, 120 employees. Supply chain manager 1, area manager of production 1, production supervisors 3, and EH&S supervisor 1, and facilities manager 1. The Village of St. Bernard will remain committed to its industrial partners and their employees. We have carefully assessed the situation and the financial impact to the village, where it has been determined that we can comfortably absorb the expected loss of revenue. The village will stay in close communication with management during this transitional period and will reach out to other industrial partners who may be able to absorb those employees who are being laid off. This evening, I'd like to congratulate Don Middendorf on his future promotion to the position of foreman with the St. Bernard Service Department, with Ed Kohlmeyer's future retirement coming up here at the end of the year. I appreciate all of the individuals who went through the process. Also, I'd like to ask to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining and the purchase of property. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to go into executive session for discussion of purchase of property and contracts.
I'll second that, Madam President.
So a motion made that we go into an executive session to talk about collective bargaining and purchase of property. Will you please take the roll?
Mr. Taberky?
Aye.
Mr. Brickweg?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schildmeyer.
Aye.
So 7 ayes, no ayes, nays. We will go into executive session after the meeting. And let it be known, other council member, Chris is here. We have 7 present. Thank you. Auditor Peggy Brickway.
Thank you, Madam President. I have 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first being some of the numbers from the end of September 2023. The expenses were $10,642,800.19. Out of that, $523,467.75 was major projects that we did and equipment. The revenue is $10,302,276.50. So we've pretty much almost been able to absorb a lot of even the major improvements, which we thought we were going to have to pay fully from. But we're doing pretty well. I'm pretty impressed with that. Next on the agenda, I'm going to ask council for an ordinance, ordinance 33, 2023. I need to transfer some funds and additional appropriations. The transfers of funds, I'm hoping this will get us even into the beginning of next year. It is $1,600,000 with $200,000 going into 71000 capital improvement cash account, $600,000 going into general bond retirement cash account, 311000, and 511000 employee health plan cash account in the amount of $800,000. Then the additional appropriations, I can help you with some of these, and then the fire chief is going to assist with some of his. General Fund 2K8, utilities. We've lowered that in the past, and as you all have seen at your house, we're getting hit. So we are about $45,000 short on that one. Our water bills and our electric bills have just been out of this world this year. So I need that additional appropriation. 202B, part-time seasonal. The service department is asking for an additional $15,000 to keep the part-time seasonal employees 3 more pay periods. Their last day would be November 14th. That way they can work through the leave collection. There will be plenty of money left over in the regular employee line items that will counter that. Park maintenance, 210, they're asking for $10,000 to continue with working to update the parks and through the end of the year. And then the last one that I have is 6A1 Medicare, $5,000. That's one, it just depends on what the employees make. And so we do our best to get close, but it looks like we're going to be about $5,000 short. And then I'll ask the fire chief to come up to discuss his line items.
Good evening. So, due to extenuating circumstances, we've had a rash of injuries, illnesses this year. We've had a total of 5 personnel that have been off at some point this year, 2 of those being occupational cancer related.
I don't think they can hear
Can you hear me? Is that better?
You got
All right, I hit the button, sorry. Okay, so due to some extenuating circumstances, we have had a rash of illnesses and injuries this year. We've had a total of 5 folks off throughout the year at some point, 2 of those being related to occupational cancer. One is currently out being treated as we speak. So 7A1A, which is the fire overtime line item, I'd like to request to have an additional $40,000 in that line item. We may have some money out of 7A1, which is just the general fireman line item we may be able to move over, but I won't know. We have another guy who goes next Tuesday for some further testing. He's been off for about a month and a half. He may be off the rest of the year. We're not 100% sure at this point. I'll know more next Tuesday. He may be back in a couple weeks, but I'm not 100% sure. But right now we have 4 people off right now. So, and some of those will be back in a couple weeks. Some of them will be off a little bit longer. We're not 100% sure. So that's all I have for this. And then later on, I have a request for some ARPA grant that we received. I'd like to talk about that a little bit later. But that's all I have for the additional appropriations. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thanks, Peggy. Law Director Valerie?
Madam President,
Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to put the additional appropriation transfers on the agenda for our next council meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Don Taberky, seconded by Kurt Brickway, to put an ordinance on the table for next council meeting for the transfer of funds and additional appropriations. All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ordinance will be on the table for next week. All right. Valerie?
Thank you. You have before you ordinance number 31. I was not asked to make any additional changes to it. So what you have is before you tonight is what was before you 2 weeks ago. There are several changes to it. The one that seems to be possibly the most contentious is about where the leaves are being placed, but that's not the only change. But I have not changed it. It is not amended from where it was 2 weeks ago. So it is what you looked at and what you had before you 2 weeks ago. Thank you. Also, I also need to go into executive session this evening to talk about pending litigation. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to go into executive session at the end of the meeting for pending litigation.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Motion by Mr. Taberky and second by Patty Housefeld to go into executive session for pending litigation. Will you please take the roll, clerk?
Mr. Taberky?
Aye.
Mr. Brickway?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schildmeyer.
Aye.
So 7 ayes. We will go into executive session to also talk about pending litigation.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Valerie. Treasurer John Unger is absent tonight. Anybody have any report? No. Safety and Service Director Tom Paul.
Thank you, Madam President. No report.
Thank you. Tax Administrator Leanne.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a little bit of a report here, so bear with me. The September 2023 end-of-month receipts, tax collection for September of 2023 was $832,225. September of 2023 is down 67% from September of 2022. Delinquent tax collected with capital recovery is $1,791. Delinquent tax collected with the Ohio Attorney General's office was $4,757. The January through September of 2023 tax collections were $7,843,764. The 2022 tax year extension will be over October 15th of 2023. There are 824 residents who have not filed a 2022 tax return for St. Bernard. The tax office will be contacting those residents beginning in November. I also wanted to point out that pending legislation is being drafted in the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee regarding the need to regulate and register rental, vacant properties, and Airbnbs. Some of the goals of this program will be to help curtail some of the property maintenance and safety issues we are having. We're proposing a fire marshal to head the program who will be able to educate and instruct the property owners on safety and compliance. A few of the items that we're discussing are vacant properties, long and short-term rental registration. This will help the city have proper contact information for the property owners. I also made contact with Eileen Turner over at Cincinnati today, who supervises the landlord rental property owner education program with Cincinnati. She sent me a copy of their program. A program like this will be very helpful to our landlords. It will give them some insight on what they need to do as a landlord to be in compliance with the local government. It also has tips and answers on many common problems that landlords face. Also, too, I ask for council to go into executive session regarding matters to be kept confidential by federal and state law. That concludes my report.
Madam President,
Mr. Berkey.
make another motion to go into executive session to discuss the matters that are required by federal and state law to be confidential.
I'll second that, Madam President.
So there was a motion to make to go into executive session for another topic, and seconded by Patty Housefeld for confidentiality of federal and state laws of those that need to stay confidential. Will you please take the roll, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Taberkey,
Aye.
Mr. Brickway,
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld,
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson,
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse,
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson,
Aye.
and Mr. Schildmeyer.
Aye.
Okay. So the motion passes. We will be talking about that in executive session also. Anything else? Ms.
That concludes my report, Madam President.
Okay. So now we will move on to the report of standing committees. Finance, Don Taberkey.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank Brandy Schulmeyer for emceeing the Meet the Candidate Night, along with Nicole Klungel for supplying the snacks. The turnout by residents was impressive, and thanks to the candidates for following the event's guidelines. Concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Don. Safety, Kirk Brickway.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd just like to report that we had a Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee meeting earlier tonight, and that, as Leanne has stated, I am in favor of that landlord educational program, getting that in place. I think that would be a good thing, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Brickway. Service, Patty Housefeld.
Thank you, Madam President. No report tonight.
Thank you. Public Improvements, Bob Culbertson.
Thank you, Madam President. The only update is the CIC will be meeting here in council chambers on October 24th at 6 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Bob. Laws, Contracts, and Claims is Kurt and Leanne and Valerie all talked about. We met tonight. Short-term, long-term rentals were significantly discussed. There are other things that they are looking at to make sure that they have everything in place. We will be meeting again on, I forgot the date of that, I think October 25th at 6:30 here in council chambers the topic will be again for the long and short-term rentals. And that concludes my report. Marketing, Ray Culberson.
Thanks, Madam President. I'd just like to remind the residents about a few upcoming community events. The Emmanuel United Church of Christ Fall Festival will be held on Sunday, October 29th from 12 to 5 p.m. The event will feature craft vendors, foods, drinks, raffle baskets, games and activities, live animals, and a kid-friendly trick-or-treat. The Village Halloween Campout will be held on Friday, October 13th and Saturday, October 14th at Lower Ross Park. There will be a Halloween costume contest and trunk or treating on Saturday night that's open to even non-campers. On Sunday, October 29th, there will be a Bengals tailgate at the Pavilion. The Bengals take on the 49ers with a kickoff of 4:25 p.m. Bring a chair or cooler with your favorite drinks and enjoy the free cookout. Lastly, the next St. Bernard Little Grove Historical Society meeting will be on Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m. in the upper level of the municipal building. The presentation is on St. Bernardians and baseball and will be given by Larry Phillips. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chris. Ray?
You're welcome.
I have Chris. Business and industry, Chris.
No report on that. What time did you say the lost contracts?
6:30.
Okay, thank you. And then I just wanted to also thank Don. I've heard for setting up the Meet the Candidate night. I've had several people tell me they enjoyed, either whether they were there or watched it on TV, that they enjoyed it. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Is there anything under old business? Anything under new business tonight? Anybody in the audience?
Madam President,
Yes.
the fire chief had asked to speak.
Okay.
Hello again. So I want to talk to you guys about the ARPA grant that we applied for. I know I spoke with the mayor and safety director as well as the auditor about this. ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, we applied for a grant. It's been about 7 to 8 months ago. Actually, it's been longer than that. It was June of 2022 is when we initially applied for it. We've had some conversation back and forth since then. So basically, police officers and firefighters are eligible for this grant. The grant was implemented to provide a retention bonus to first responders who worked through the pandemic. This was initially a 10% retention bonus, including pension. We applied for both the police departments and the fire department. We were awarded this grant in August of 2023. Due to overwhelming requests, the parameters of the grant have been modified. Now it's a flat $4,000 per employee across the board. And they've chosen not to include pension. So the Ohio EMA, and I have a letter here from Seema Merrick, who's executive director of the Ohio EMA, which I can share if you'd like me to. But they are requesting that the awarded agencies pick up the pension part for the employees. For the grant that we received, this would break down to approximately $29,340. Again, I can give you a copy of the letter. I'm going to kind of go over the breakdown of the costs. So for the police department, there were 13 eligible employees at $4,000 each. That's a total grant of $52,000. The employer pension part is 19.5% or $780 per employee for a total of $10,140. Fire side, there's 20 eligible employees, again, $4,000 each, total of $80,000 in grants. Employer pension, 24% for fire, that's $960 an employee, or a total of $19,200. So the grand total of the village would be $29,340 of pension that would come out of that money. So they'll basically give us the funds, and we're asking that you guys would pick up, we're asking that you guys would pick up the pension part, the village's pension part for that. Initially, they thought pension was not going to come out of that, but the Ohio Police and Fire pension thought otherwise. So that's where we're at. So again, the total we received is let's see here, $132,000, and we're asking for I'm asking for the $29,340 to be covered by the village for the pension, and then we still have to pay our 12.25% of the pension and then applicable taxes. So again, I have a letter from Ms. Merrick if you guys would like to see that, and I have an entire breakdown of the grant, which is here. The time is of the essence in this because we received this paperwork on October 2nd, and I have to give them a response by November 2nd. We have 30 days, actually it'll be November 1st. But we have to give them a response within 30 days to accept this grant. Obviously, I know you can't vote on it tonight, but we'll need to know fairly shortly if I can, so I can respond back to them whether or not we're going to accept this grant and how we're moving forward with the financial parts of it. So, any questions?
Madam President?
Yes, Chris?
Just, Brian, just to be clear, if we don't vote for the pension part, we don't get the rest of the grant?
That's not correct. So
Okay.
if you guys don't pass, that's what we're asking for you to do it, and that's what she's requesting. If you don't, what the alternative is we can have them take the pension out of the initial amount. So basically, for like the fire side, instead of getting a $4,000 bonus, they would get a $3,040 bonus. So you are eligible to pull those funds out of the initial grant money, but they're requesting that the employers pick it up as part. Again, the intention was a 10%, which ended up not being close. I forget what the number was, but it was overwhelmingly more people applied for this than they thought that would. So we were thinking it was going to be probably about $8,600 per employee, and it ended up being $4,000, so about half. So, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
So I do have a question. So if we pass an ordinance on the next council meeting, is that still enough time? Or
Yeah.
will we need a special meeting?
I think you could do it then.
We'd be okay? If it's,
Yeah, I
because
just
that's the
have to- I just have to-
26th.
I had to just respond to them by November the 1st.
Okay, you have to respond.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
there's some paperwork here that I'll have to sign, and I believe the safety director will have to sign as well for us. And what they'll do is they'll actually send us the funds, and then we have to pay the employees, and then we have to send them copies of the checks just to verify it, and there's a follow-up process. But I
Very
think
good.
as long as we have it by then, we'll be fine.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Madam President?
Yes, Don.
Peggy, can we add that to the other ordinance, or does it have to be a separate ordinance?
No, if you decide to do it, you can add the additional appropriation. The amount would be added to the pension line items in each of the police and fire.
Madam President?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir. I'm getting all confused tonight.
Gee, I don't know. Make a motion, they add the additional appropriation for the pension on the additional appropriation ordinance.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Motion by Don DeBerke, seconded by Kurt Brickway to have the additional appropriations for the grant on the ordinance that's already going to be on for council meeting for the transfer of funds and additional appropriations. Okay. Oh, we will take a vote. All in favor of, say aye. Those not in favor? Okay, we'll pass. Okay.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? I just thought
Yes.
of something. Brian, will those be paid out this year, do you know, or will it be next year? Because if it is this year, I'll have to do additional appropriations to the employee line items, even though we're going to get reimbursed.
It will be, so the understanding is we get to reply in 30 days, and they should give us the fund within 30 days. So
Okay.
we should have the funds by early December. So yes, it would be
Okay,
this
so
year.
I'll go ahead and there'll be a police line item, and I'll add some to the fire line item, so we can pay it, and then we will get reimbursed.
Right, yeah, it's going to basically come out and in the way it sounds.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so what I see for the council for the next meeting on October 26, 2023, will be the one ordinance for the transfer of funds for an additional appropriations. There isn't any, that's all going to be on one, right, Peggy? That's all
Yes.
gonna, okay. Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam President,
Oh,
We got-
oh,
executive session.
we will go into executive session after the special council meeting. So
What time?
7:30.
Madam
7:30 is.
Madam
yeah.
President?
Yes.
So, yes, we've asked to go into executive session, but correct me if I'm wrong, did we give it an opportunity for any community involvement? Do we want to do that before executive session, or have them wait the extensive period of time for us to go through 4 different items in executive session?
They have the special council meeting first.
Got it.
Yes. That's what I was going to suggest. So can we adjourn this one? Or do I have to wait for the executive?
No, you can't adjourn.
Okay. All right, so we will take a brief pause for 6 minutes, and then we'll go into the special council meeting and then go into executive session. Today is October 12th, 2023. There is a special council meeting to discuss ordinance number 31, 2023. Clerk, will you take the call? Roll call.
Mr. Taberky?
Present.
Mr. Brickwig? Here. Ms. Hausfeld?
Here.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Here.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Here.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Here.
And Mr. Schultmeyer.
Present.
Show all members are present to discuss this ordinance for tonight. So I will discuss this ordinance as far as the changes that we were looking at making. So the purpose of this special council meeting tonight is just really to vote on the ordinance number 31 as stated. It's amending the St. Bernard Codified Ordinances, Chapter 923, Waste Collection and Recycling. This ordinance was up for vote 2 weeks ago at the last council meeting, but concerns were raised about the wording of Section 923.21 of the yard waste. This section addresses seasonal fall leaf pickup. It states that leaves may be placed on the verge, which is located between the curb and sidewalk. That is, some have the grassy areas and some have the concrete. As chair of the Laws, Contracts, and Claims Committee, I asked the Service and Safety Director, Mr. Paul, to provide direction for this wording. He recommended not to change the wording of this amending ordinance, that we keep the word verge as a starting point for the enforcement of the ordinance. So basically, if you have small piles of leaves, bag them so they don't get washed down the sewers. If you have big piles of leaves, pile them on the verge in that grassy area or the small concrete area. We understand that they will flow over into the gutter, but there is less chance of them that they will be washed down into the sewers or blown down there by the winds that happen during the season. And then the leaf collector will pick them up, and they come often, almost daily, especially when there's big piles of leaves. So that will help our sewers from not getting all clogged up. So I am recommending that ordinance number 31 was left on the table as it is for vote, and that's what we'll be voting on tonight. Any questions? Okay, clerk, will you have the first reading of ordinance number 31, please?
Ordinance number 31, 2023, amending the St. Bernard Codified Ordinances, Chapter 923, Waste Collection and Recycling, and declaring an emergency.
So you have heard your first reading of ordinance number 31, 2023. What is your pleasure?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. DeBerk.
make a motion to dispense with second and third readings of ordinance 31, 2023.
I'll second that, Madam President.
Motion by Don Taberky, second by Patty Hausfeld, is to suspend with a second and third reading of ordinance number 31, 2023. Will you please take the roll?
Mr. Taberky?
Aye.
Mr. Brickwig?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghouse?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schultmeyer.
Aye.
So suspension of the second and third reading has been approved. So what is your pleasure in adoption of ordinance number 31, 2023?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Taberky?
make a motion to adopt ordinance 31, 2023.
I'll second that, Madam President.
So there is a motion to adopt ordinance number 31, 2023, and seconded by Patty Hausfeld. Are there any remarks? Anybody in the audience wish to make any comment?
I think I've already made my concerns known to most of you. And actually, a lot of you are going to be directly affected by this ordinance because either you have no verge or you have a very small verge that you're not going to be able to get your leaves into. You're just opening up to a lot of confusion about it. I mean, you currently have residents who are putting leaves into piles for the service department to pick up in the gutter. And you don't want them to do that anymore? Is that what you're saying with this? Anyone?
Mr. Paul, would you comment, please, as we talked?
Yes, Madam President. No, the verge is a starting point, It makes more sense to try to train the police department instead of the entire village. So if the police department knows that the season is October 1st to November 14th, they look at the leaves. Verge is a starting point to get the leaves out. If they pile into the street, they know that it's the season, and there's nothing we can do about that. If some trees drop so many leaves that if residents would start and put it on the verge, they would go from one block to the next block. It's not it shouldn't be done. So my recommendation to council is to pass it as it is, due to the fact that it'll be the police, so they have the intention of the resident to know what they're doing with their leaves. If they have a big pile and it doesn't fit on the verge, it has to go somewhere. So they'll spill out into the street. The vacuum comes by, if it's not broken down, opposite days of trash pickup. So therefore, they're there unless it breaks down, and I have made orders that they go out and do them by hand in pickup trucks and dump trucks, but that takes longer. So if the pile's there longer than a couple days, there's something went wrong with the vacuum. However, if not, they'll be picked up as quickly as possible.
So you're saying go ahead and put them in the gutter? Because that's where they're gonna end up.
You put them on the verge. That's the starting point. If you don't have a verge, they go right where the verge may be. So yes, if that's in the gutter, it's in the gutter. Careful of your intent, though. The police will follow the law.
So the police are gonna come by looking to see if you have your leaves in the verge?
Yes, they patrol the city.
So you're still saying it needs to be in the verge, but it's inevitably gonna spill into the gutter?
They will spill into the gutter, and the wind will blow them into the gutter. Yes.
So how are the police gonna enforce that?
They'll see. They'll look. If you come out and you have a pile out of season in the gutter.
No, we're talking about in season, not out of season.
In
we're
season,
talking
then.
about
Fine.
during the fall pickup.
Yes.
So how are the police gonna enforce that if you put it in the verge, but, you know, act of God like wind puts
Yes.
them into the gutter? How is that gonna be enforced?
Act of God by wind. Now
Yeah.
we're under intention of what the law is. We can't help that. If you do not have a verge, we cannot help that. You put them out there, they will pick them up during the season.
So on the sidewalk?
No, that's a right-of-way.
Okay, well, if you have a verge that's this big, this deep, how are the leaves gonna go there? Or, I know, Bob, you have no verge, right?
Correct.
Okay, so he's
I
just supposed
beg
to
'em.
put them on the sidewalk?
So, no,
Well,
the
wh-
sidewalk is
where-
only 3 foot wide, and then you have a verge, whether it be concrete, grass, or the curb. So hit the curb. The police will know the intention. That's where it's bound to. We cannot write laws about seasons. We cannot write laws about leaves
Well,
blowing everywhere. It's just
Actually,
impossible.
the current law does specify the
They-
fall pickup season.
Okay.
So you do
Yeah.
write laws for
And
the
we're telling,
season.
that's why we
that
changed
is
it. You
currently what-
cannot write a law about a season. Because the season.
You do have one currently in effect, and I just read it in the LCC meeting earlier.
Okay.
So it does specify the fall pickup season for leaves, being able to put them in the gutter. So it is seasonal. It is a seasonal
There's
law.
dates in seasonal, or is it seasonal?
There. You want
fall and
a
winter.
copy of it?
Madam President, may I
Madam
speak?
President.
Sure.
Thank you. I've lived here 25 years. I think you're way overthinking this one. We have not had an issue with leaves. We've talked to the service department. It's going to be okay. We're going to survive this. Okay.
Here's what it says.
I know what it says. We're going to be okay. I think you're way overthinking
Well,
this.
I
Excuse me, I'm
think that-
speaking, and I'll let you speak when I'm done. But we've talked to the service department. They've told us how they're going to enforce it, how they're going to do it. I'm sorry, but this is crazy. I'm like, we've been doing this forever. All they were trying to do is prevent some leaves from going into the storm sewers. That's it. I have not heard one other citizen complain about this or call down here. I have trees, I have leaves, I have a verge.
How many people know about it?
Oh, God, okay, I'm just
Okay.
saying, I think you should
So-
just go ahead and vote.
We're
Madam
gonna-
President, you need
you're-
to end this.
We're going to bring this meeting back to order. We've heard the concerns, we've heard some answers. We'll just go on with the vote. So will you please take the vote?
Mr. Taberky?
Aye.
Mr. Brickway?
Aye.
Mr. Bob Culbertson?
Aye.
Ms. Hausfeld?
Aye.
Ms. Bettinghaus?
Aye.
Mr. Ray Culbertson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schulmeyer.
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays. The motion is passed for ordinance number 31, 2023. Special council meeting has come, do I have a motion to adjourn the special council meeting?
Madam
I make a
President,
motion, we adjourn this special council meeting.
I'll second that.
There's a motion by Chris Schultmeyer, second by Ray Culberson to adjourn the special council meeting. Meeting is adjourned.
Executive session.
Going into executive session?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you see any reason for him